Never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance in the world to pursue your dreams. Sanders is to blame for my loss, along with Obama and Biden. They never really supported me because I'm a woman. They're all deplorables, just like every registered Republican in America. We must stop thinking of the individual and start thinking about what is best for society. The American people are tired of liars and people who pretend to be something they're not. It's time that we move from good words to good works, from sound bites to sound solutions. Freedom means the right of people to assemble, organize, and debate openly. The money has to go to the federal government because the federal government will spend that money better than the private sector will spend it. The only way to make a difference is to acquire power. Laws and traditions that hold back women hold back entire societies. You know, I'm going to start thanking the woman who cleans the restroom in the building I work in. I'm going to start thinking of her as a human being. Don't let anybody tell you it's corporations and businesses that create jobs. I don't spend my hours plotting for somebody else's downfall. Every moment wasted looking back keeps us from moving forward. I am particularly horrified by the use of propaganda and the manipulation of the truth and the revision of history. In this world and the world of tomorrow, we must go forward together or not at all. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think it's a good rule for politics, too. If I want to knock a story off the front page, I just change my hairstyle. Let me repeat what I have repeated for many months now. I never received nor sent any material that was marked classified. There's no such thing as other people's children. Women have always been the primary victims of war. Women lose their husbands, their fathers, their sons in combat. Probably my worst quality is that I get very passionate about what I think is right. Many of you are well enough off that. The tax cuts may have helped you. We're saying that for America to get back on track, we're probably going to cut that short and not give it to you. We're going to take things away from you on behalf of the common good. Human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. Let us not forget that among those rights are the right to speak freely and the right to be heard. Life is too short to dwell on what might have been. We cannot let a minority of people hold a viewpoint that terrorizes the majority of people. My husband may have his faults, but he has never lied to me. There cannot be true democracy unless women's voices are heard. There cannot be true democracy unless women are given the opportunity to take responsibility for their own lives. I have to confess that it's crossed my mind that you could not be a Republican and a Christian. Women are the largest untapped reservoir of talent in the world. Never waste a good crisis. Don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact on climate change and energy security. I think I will serve as Secretary of State as my last public position. Giving every child a chance to reach their full potential is the best work anyone can do. Islam is the fastest growing religion in America, a guide and pillar of stability for many of our people. Every one of us every day has choices to make about the kind of person we are and what we wish to become. You can decide to be someone who brings people together, or you can fall prey to those who wish to divide us. You can be someone who educates yourself, or you can believe that being negative is clever and being cynical is fashionable. You have a choice. There cannot be true democracy unless all citizens are able to participate fully in the lives of their country. Who is going to find out? These women are trash. Nobody's going to believe them. I am, you know, adamantly against illegal immigration. I suppose I could have stayed home and baked cookies and had teas. Real democracy means that no group or faction or leader can impose their will, their ideology, their religion, their desires on anyone else. I really do hope that we have a woman president in my lifetime. With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference, at this point, does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again. The worst thing that can happen in a democracy, as well as in an individual's life, is to become cynical about the future and lose hope. We should remember that just as a positive outlook on life can promote good health, so can everyday acts of kindness. I am a fan of the social policies that you find in Europe. I'm not going to have some reporters pawing through our papers. We are the president. We came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt. You may not agree with a woman, but to criticize her appearance, as opposed to her ideas or actions, isn't doing anyone any favors, least of all you. Insulting a woman's looks when they have nothing to do with the issue at hand implies a lack of comprehension on your part, an inability to engage in high-level thinking. You may think she's ugly, but everyone else thinks you're an idiot. The patterns have become unmistakable and undeniable. We have to come to terms with some hard truths about race and justice in America. Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will. And deep-seated cultural codes, religious beliefs, and structural biases have to be changed. Corporations and businesses create jobs. You cannot have development in today's world without partnering with the private sector. We need to have a resolve that will bring the world together to root out the kind of radical jihadist ideology that motivates organizations like ISIS, a barbaric, ruthless, violent jihadist terrorist group. I feel like my political beliefs are rooted in the conservatism that I was raised with. You cannot have maternal health without reproductive health. And reproductive health includes contraception and family planning and access to legal, safe abortion. I'm sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic, and we should stand up and say, we are Americans and we have the right to debate and disagree with any administration. It should never be a crime to be gay. Marriage has got historic, religious, and moral content that goes back to the beginning of time, and I think a marriage is as a marriage has always been, between a man and a woman. Hillary Clinton at the end of the day will be a friend of Wall Street. I say a lot of things, millions of words a day, so if I misspoke, that was just a misstatement. If you like your email provider, you can keep your email provider. Period. LGBT Americans are our colleagues, our teachers, our soldiers, our friends, our loved ones, and they are full and equal citizens and deserve the rights of citizenship. That includes marriage. Everyday Americans need a champion, and I want to be that champion. I wonder if it's possible to be a Republican and a Christian at the same time. The most important thing I have to say to you today is that hair matters. Pay attention to your hair, because everyone else will. For all the injustices in our past and our present, we have to believe that in the free exchange of ideas, justice will prevail over injustice, tolerance over intolerance, and progress over reaction. While we are each free to believe whatever we choose, we cannot do whatever we choose. If Planned Parenthood and Human Rights Campaign were part of the establishment, that would be time for all of us to just quit having to work so hard and defend it and fight for it. I am sick and tired of the negative, dark, divisive, dangerous vision and behavior of people who support Donald Trump. Women offer unique contributions to making and keeping peace, and that those contributions lead to better outcomes not just for women, but for entire societies. Trickle-down did not work. It got us into the mess we were in 2008 and 2009. Slashing taxes on the wealthy hasn't worked. And a lot of really smart, wealthy people know that. And they are saying, hey, we need to do more to make the contributions we should be making to rebuild the middle class. I believe that the rights of women and girls is the unfinished business of the 21st century. I think you have to take the man at his word. It's kind of an equal opportunity insulter. He started by calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals. He moved on to denigrating John McCain's heroism during the Vietnam War. He has gone after people with disabilities. He has said Muslims should be kept out of our country. He certainly has gone after individual women in the media, in the political arena. We need a return to transparency and a system of checks and balances, to a president who respects Congress's role of oversight and accountability. Home is a child's first and most important classroom. I don't think it was progressive to vote to give gun makers and sellers immunity. I don't think it was progressive to vote against Ted Kennedy's immigration reform. I don't think it was progressive to vote to give gun makers and sellers immunity. I don't think it was progressive to vote against Ted Kennedy's immigration reform. Great nations need organizing principles, and don't do stupid stuff is not an organizing principle. We are Americans, and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration. It's time for a new beginning, for an end to government of the few, by the few, and for the few, and to replace it with shared responsibility for shared prosperity. I think that I have been clear that demonizing and demagoguing about Muslims is not only offensive, it is dangerous, and it plays into ISIS's hands. It does not matter what country we live in, who our leaders are, or even who we are. Because we are human, we therefore have rights. And because we have rights, governments are bound to protect them. Democracy is still a radical idea in a world where we often confuse images with realities, words with actions. All of our presidents come into office looking so vigorous. They grow grayer and grayer, and by the time they leave, they're as white as the building they live in. I have one big advantage: I've been coloring my hair for years. So you're not going to see me turn white in the White House. The bottom line on nuclear weapons is that when the president gives the order, it must be followed. There's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching nuclear weapons to do so. And that's why 10 people who have had that awesome responsibility have come out and, in an unprecedented way, said they would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear codes or to have his finger on the nuclear button. The bottom line on nuclear weapons is that when the president gives the order, it must be followed. There's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching nuclear weapons to do so. And that's why 10 people who have had that awesome responsibility have come out and, in an unprecedented way, said they would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear codes or to have his finger on the nuclear button. I just think that giving a child a chance and sharing what you have with a child is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, as well as a child. Women are always being tested. But ultimately, each of us has to define who we are individually and then do the very best job we can to grow into it. I don't want people who just tell me what they think I want to hear, because that doesn't do me any good. I'm not concerned about what says about me. That doesn't matter to me. I'm going to stand up for immigrants. I'm going to stand up for American Muslims who are working hard in this country that they love and consider their own. I'm going to stand up for other women. I'm going to stand up for the right to choose. I think cybersecurity, cyber warfare will be one of the biggest challenges facing the next president, because clearly we're facing at this point two different kinds of adversaries. There are the independent hacking groups that do it mostly for commercial reasons to try to steal information that they can use to make money. Prosperity can't be just for CEOs and hedge fund managers. Democracy can't be just for billionaires and corporations. Prosperity and democracy are part of your basic bargain, too. One thing we know for sure is that change is certain. Progress is not. Progress depends on the choices we make today for tomorrow and on whether we meet our challenges and protect our values. Our prisons and our jails are now our mental health institutions. I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman. We saw more evidence that is temperamentally unfit and totally unqualified to be commander-in-chief. He trash-talked American generals, saying they had been, quote, reduced to rubble. That's how he talks about distinguished men and women who have spent their lives serving our country, sacrificing for us. That's how he would act as commander-in-chief. I have been for border security for years. I voted for border security in the United States Senate. And my comprehensive immigration reform plan, of course, includes border security. There is one lesson from the past, in particular, that we cannot afford to ignore. You cannot make progress on gender equality or broader human development without safeguarding women's reproductive health and rights. Let's learn from the wisdom of every mother and father who teaches their daughters there is no limit on how big she can dream and how much she can achieve. In almost every profession, whether it's law or journalism, finance or medicine or academia or running a small business, people rely on confidential communications to do their jobs. We count on the space of trust that confidentiality provides. When someone breaches that trust, we are all worse off for it. It is a campaign to break down every barrier that holds you back. We need more than a plan for the big banks. The middle class needs a raise. And we need more jobs. African American men are more likely to be killed in police incidents, stopped and searched, and sentenced to longer prison terms than white men convicted of similar crimes. Behind these statistics are heart-wrenching stories of lives cut short and families ripped apart. African American men are more likely to be killed in police incidents, stopped and searched, and sentenced to longer prison terms than white men convicted of similar crimes. Behind these statistics are heart-wrenching stories of lives cut short and families ripped apart. We have to build an economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top. That means we need new jobs, good jobs, with rising incomes. Women have always been the primary victims of war. Women lose their husbands, their fathers, their sons in combat. Women often have to flee from the only homes they have ever known. Women are often the refugees from conflict and sometimes, more frequently in today's warfare, victims. Women are often left with the responsibility, alone, of raising the children. I need people to know that there is a group of people who are part of the leadership of the DNC, and I will make damn sure as a vice chair, and so will others, that we do everything humanly possible to have a level playing field. I fought all my life for women to make their own choices in their personal and professional lives. I made mine. Our largest companies should not be able to get away with paying hardly anything at all. It is insulting when they engage in these games like moving their headquarters over to a foreign country, on paper, not in reality, just to take advantage of lower tax breaks. When Donald Trump says a distinguished judge born in Indiana can't do his job because of his Mexican heritage, or he mocks a reporter with disabilities, or calls women pigs, it goes against everything we stand for. The challenges of change are always hard. It is important that we begin to unpack those challenges that confront this nation and realize that we each have a role that requires us to change and become more responsible for shaping our own future. We have to build a political consensus, and that requires people to give up a little bit of their own turf in order to create this common ground. We have to build a political consensus, and that requires people to give up a little bit of their own turf in order to create this common ground. I have met thousands and thousands of pro-choice men and women. I have never met anyone who is pro-abortion. Being pro-choice is not being pro-abortion. Being pro-choice is trusting the individual to make the right decision for herself and her family, and not entrusting that decision to anyone wearing the authority of government in any regard. What we are learning around the world is that if women are healthy and educated, their families will flourish. If women are free from violence, their families will flourish. If women have a chance to work and earn as full and equal partners in society, their families will flourish. And when families flourish, communities and nations do as well. What we are learning around the world is that if women are healthy and educated, their families will flourish. If women are free from violence, their families will flourish. If women have a chance to work and earn as full and equal partners in society, their families will flourish. And when families flourish, communities and nations do as well. We know that Donald Trump has shown a very troubling willingness to back up Putin, to support Putin, whether it's saying that NATO wouldn't come to the rescue of allies if they were invaded, talking about removing sanctions from Russian officials after they were imposed by the United States and Europe together, because of Russia's aggressiveness in Crimea and Ukraine, his praise for Putin, which is, I think, quite remarkable. I think it's important that we do it in concert with other nations in Europe, the Middle East, elsewhere if necessary. And that means you've got to work with people. You don't insult them. You don't insult their religion. And it means we have to see our entire country, all of the people in it, as part of our first line of defense. I think it's important that we do it in concert with other nations in Europe, the Middle East, elsewhere if necessary. And that means you've got to work with people. You don't insult them. You don't insult their religion. And it means we have to see our entire country, all of the people in it, as part of our first line of defense. We have to tackle the plague of gun violence, which is a big contributor to a lot of the problems that we're seeing today. I'm really looking forward to both meeting with Sen. Sanders as soon as our campaign teams find a time that works for both of us.